Welcome back to Ralph's Sort of True Stories. We were talking about doctors. Got a few more doctor stories to share with you. One's about a famous doctor, Dr. Goldberg. He had a Park Avenue practice, had a lot of high-end clients and all. But his background was that he grew up in a small town in Missouri. His family was the only Jewish family in the whole town. So as a result, at least he felt, always a little bit of an outsider, and as kids do, they kind of teased him and made fun and all that. But he went to local college there, and then he went off and he got into Harvard Medical School, and he got his degree, and he set up a practice in New York, and he got to be, as I said, quite famous. Not only did he have a thriving practice, but he was published in medical journals and all. And one day he gets a call back from his high school, back in this little town that he left so many years ago. And they said, they want to have him come back, and they want to give him a key to the city and honor him as the most famous citizen coming out of that town. So he agreed, even though he didn't have really good feelings for the town. He had all these papers together, and he was in the school auditorium, and they had a lavalier mic on him so that, he could just walk around and talk freely. And he still had his papers on the podium, though. And just as he was going to start his speech and everybody was seated, somebody opened a side door to the auditorium. The wind blew and blew all these papers on the floor. When he bent down to pick them up, his lavalier mic picked up this fart. Dr. Goldberg passed wind, and it reverberated through all the speakers. He was so embarrassed, he just grabbed his papers, he went out the side door, never to return to that town again. So many years later, his mother dies, and the funeral's in this little town, and he has to return to go to his funeral. But he checks into this local hotel, but he checks in under the name Mr. Brown, because he doesn't want anybody to recognize him. And when he's checking in, the clerk is very cheerful and says, "Well, Mr. Brown, welcome to our town. Have you ever been here before?" And he said, "Well, actually, I grew up here and went to school here." "Oh, really, Mr. Brown? How long has it been since you've been back?" He said, "Oh, it's been many years." He said, "I had an embarrassing incident occur, and I've just decided that I didn't really want to return." "Mr. Brown, you're much older than I am, and I'm sure you have the wisdom of the ages, but at least in my lifetime, I found that things that we think were embarrassing, everybody else has forgotten about, and I don't think you have a thing to worry about." He said, "Exactly how long ago was it?" He said, "Well, it was many years." He says, well, tell me this, was it before or after the Dr. Goldberg fart?" So apparently that was still remembered. One of the other miracles of modern medicine is the Viagra pill, and Cialis and all the other stuff. Says it is really amazing. It solves a lot of problems for a lot of guys. But recently that Pfizer factory was raided by criminals, and they stole all the Pfizer. That's the only thing they put. But they think they're going to catch them right away because they put a APB out for hardened criminals. And, they're making advances in the formulation. You may have heard, or may not, I don't know. They came out with a liquid Viagra. So now a guy can come home from a hard day's work and pour himself a stiff one. Now my father, who's, older than I am, went to the pharmacist. He didn't have a prescription, but he had so many different medicines he filled at this pharmacy. The pharmacist knew him. He said, "John," he says, "I need a Viagra, but I don't need a whole Viagra. Can you just give me a half a Viagra? I want to test it." The pharmacist says, "Well, Galen, a half a Viagra isn't going to do you any good." And he said, "Well, John, you don't understand. It's not like I'm not looking to get a Woody. I'm just tired of peeing on my boots." So Dad thought maybe that would help. Now, getting back to the doctors, a doctor prescribed Viagra once for this guy that didn't have any erectile dysfunction at all. The guy had been out in the desert and he'd gotten horribly sunburned. He was wearing shorts and, flip-flops, and he was out where he shouldn't have been, stayed too long. And the nurse had the patient in the hospital, and the doctor wrote out a prescription for Viagra. And the nurse says, Viagra? Why are you giving him Viagra? He says, I want to keep the sheets off of his sunburn. You know, recently I went to the dentist, and the dentist wanted to give me some Novocaine. And I said, no, doc, don't give me that Novocaine, because I really don't like those needles at all. He said, well, I could give you laughing gas, the nitrous oxide. I said, you know, I had that once, and when I came out of that, I just had a terrible, terrible headache. You know, no. He said, well, here, take this Viagra. I said, oh, does Viagra work for pain relief? He said, no, this is going to hurt like hell, but it'll give you something to hold on to. Now, my brother, he's more of a cowboy than I am. He has a lot of cows, has this ranch, and he went and got this prize bull. Like, I'm not into this, but it seemed to me he paid like $50,000 for this bull. And, but, you know, the bloodlines were perfect, but it turned out this bull wasn't doing anything. My brother, who really, as a cowboy, never really wants to call the vet because he figures he can diagnose and treat everything. But he is just given up, and he calls the vet, and the vet comes and says, well, I think the issue with this bull, he's just a little young. You know, put another year on him and he'll probably be good. But he said, in the meantime, here's some pills you can give him. He said, just, you know, mix this up in his feed and, you know, it might work. Well, did it work? Whoa. You know, next day, this bull's out and he's mounting everything that he can catch. This is just fantastic. My brother thinks his $50,000 is well spent. You know, and I can't really tell you what was in those pills. I can tell you they taste a little bit like peppermint. Anyway, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming to Ralph's Sort of True Stories. We're going to have some more true stories coming up here in a little bit. Now, down there at the bottom, you got that thumbs up thing. And next to that, you got the subscribe. And next to that, you got the bell. Click on all three of those things, and we'll ring you up next time we got a video loaded. Thanks a lot for watching.